Welcome to the Dynamic Text Instructional Videos for Teachers series. This video will introduce you to the concept of developing word consciousness and the associated talk and text routines. Explicit instructions for each of the dynamic text routines, which can be shown as a preview for students, can be found in the demonstration video series. Word consciousness is an awareness of, knowledge of, and interest in words, and is typically not a characteristic of our striving readers. People don't recognize language that is not meaningful. When we ask students to select their own vocabulary from a text, they're not being lazy when they announce that they already know all the words. They simply don't see the words they don't know. And with word-weak students, that's a lot of missed language. The routines for developing word consciousness are very simple. The initial interaction of students with complex vocabulary is intentionally unchallenging. The routines are so simple, in fact, that it could be easy to miss the importance of this first introduction to complex text. You could be very tempted to skip right over these routines. But developing word consciousness with students is critical to developing the academic vocabulary to comprehend complex text. What are these word consciousness routines? There are 5. Each of the routines requires a gloss list, a specific vocabulary resource for students, which I will describe shortly. Routine 1, look and listen with word gloss, where students will hear and track the target words on the gloss list as we pronounce them out loud. Routine 2, call and response with gloss list, where students will chorally repeat back to us each target word we pronounce, and using the provided gloss list, then chorally call out the meaning. Routine 3, listen and word card, an elaboration of call and response, where we pronounce the words and students write their assigned words and glosses on index cards. Routine 4, inside-outside loop, a kinesthetic activity where students will use the cards created in Routine 3 to practice reading and telling the gloss in a whole group structured interaction with peers. And Routine 5, locating words in text, where students will flag or highlight, in the case of consumable text, the target words in the text with peers or with teacher direction. These routines always start with the text we have selected. That's where the academic language is found and where we will focus on the intended message of the author. And the talk and text routines are always introduced with an oral language interaction. Why do we front-load the routines with structured oral interactions? Humans are hardwired to acquire language through meaningful interaction. But traditionally, our students' interactions with academic language of text rarely have the characteristics of meaningful communication. We require students to struggle with a text and to attempt to make sense of complex vocabulary independently through the use of context clues. Context clues, which research tells us, will help students successfully obtain word meaning only about 5% of the time. And then, after this fairly arduous experience reading, we will probably ask them to write about the text, which they have barely understood. There are 4 language domains: listening, speaking, reading, writing. And in traditional practice, we instruct academic text with the 2 most complex language domains, reading and writing. So in dynamic text, we turn that practice around and introduce complex text in the least challenging language domain, listening. And then we move to speaking, and then reading, and then writing. We introduce the complex content of academic text with the least complex language process. Certainly our goal is to develop academic language proficiency across the language domains, but we introduce complex text through oral introduction and rehearsal. While the instructional routines are simple, the preparation for instruction of word consciousness is critical and time-consuming, and there are 4 steps. You will select an appropriate text. You will identify the target words likely to be unfamiliar to your students and create a gloss list. A gloss is a one-word or short phrase definition of the target word in the same part of speech and expressing only the meaning of the word as it is used in the selected text. And you will number the gloss list in the order that the words appear in the text. Because this preparation is so critical, to the foundational introductory routines, the dynamic text team has created gloss lists for many of the novels and literary texts typically read in English language arts and reading classes in grades 6 through 12, as well as gloss lists for historical documents. These include documents that support the scope and sequence of content area curriculum in science and social studies, as well as text exemplars identified by the Common Core. This is an ever-expanding resource available on our dynamictext.com website as we develop additional gloss lists in response to our own need for teaching materials and requests from other educators. I hope you have been informed and enjoyed this introduction to word consciousness. For a more explicit explanation of the specific routines, please view the demonstration videos that are a companion resource to the Dynamic Text Teacher's Guide to Talk and Text Routines.